What is your take on the theme for 2022, Break the Bias?
For me, I think breaking that bias is about companies looking differently at how they do things. We all know that actually if you continue to do the same things, you don't expect a different result. So for me, breaking the bias and is about actually companies looking flexibly, looking at taking on women returning from career breaks. It's about looking at a way to enable people to transferable skills between industries and sectors, to look at recruitment that actually will encourage a wide body of people to apply. I've seen it myself that in many occasions, women won't apply for a job if it doesn't say actually flexible working will be considered. They won't apply if it, for certain roles, if the expectations are set that somebody's going to arrive in and actually it's not a supportive environment, actually that they have to be at this position, but actually there's an opportunity to come alongside somebody to allow them to develop into a role. Actually, those are all key to actually widening our diversity in the workforce. Supportive, in terms of childcare, flexible working hours, looking at doing things differently, and then hopefully we'll get a different result and have a more diverse workforce.
Do you think enough is being done by your industry to break the bias?
For me, it is about changing views on roles within industry. But for me, you have to take it right back to actually what girls believe that they can be and what careers are open to them. So the industries that I work in are STEM careers. So those industries within STEM are engineering and manufacturing, construction, energy and clean tech. So for me, it's about actually taking it back into the primary schools and enabling girls to understand that they can have a really fulfilling career within one of these sectors.
How did you start out in your career?
I left school when I was 16 after GCSEs and joined Shell to work on oil and gas carriers. So effectively that's an apprenticeship, a cadetship. So it's a sandwich course and it was a national diploma level. So you start with a very short period of time at college and then you work at sea and then back to college and then at sea and then back to college again and come out with an Officer of the Watch certificate which enables you to navigate oil and gas carriers worldwide. I worked for Shell for 15 years. I was really very fortunate, very privileged really, that they took me through my career into a higher certificate, so enabled me to gain my mates and masters certificate, so would have, if I had enough sea time, and allowed me to sail as captain on one of their vessels. I then went shoreside with them and in the management side of things, so in management and training, in HR roles on a global level. So Shell's a global company, so we would go out and recruit worldwide, but also train worldwide as well. While I was with them, they put me through a master's degree, so an MBA. And then I took a career break actually with my children. And when I looked to go back into work, actually, it was one of those, I wanted a part-time role, but actually it's quite difficult to find part-time roles. And I ended up switching into aerospace and working for an engineering company where I started out as a project manager working on projects for Airbus and Spirit, so those big aerospace projects, and then worked up to being a business manager where I actually was responsible for 2 offices, one here in the Isle of Man and one in Prestwick. And then from there took another shorter career break and then had a third career effectively working for government. And in my role now, I'm really privileged to work with lots of businesses on the Isle of Man and those that are looking inwardly to inward invest, helping businesses to grow and develop in such sectors as engineering, manufacturing, construction, energy and clean tech. So again, all those STEM industries.
How difficult or easy was it to come back to work after a career break?
I was really privileged to take an extended career break with my children, something that was incredible, had just such a fabulous time. And it was difficult to make that decision to come back. And actually, it is difficult to find that right step, that first entry point back into work. I had a lot of people that would have spoken words over me, such as, well, why don't you get yourself a nice little job in a shop? Or, actually, why don't you go and do some cleaning in your part-time? And it was a bit like, I had a master's degree, I was ready to work, but I didn't want to go back full-time. So I started applying for roles. And actually what I got back was 3 offers for very good positions at very good companies, but all full-time. And what the companies actually said to me was, you're overqualified. You're overqualified for a part-time position. And my response was, well, I might be overqualified, but actually in that case, you get me, at a reasonable rate, you can use me, but I only want to do part-time. At the moment, I'm not ready to go back full-time. And all 3 companies actually said, no, we don't think we can make that work for our business. What I then had was an offer from a company that said, actually, we've got 6 weeks work on a temporary basis, working on some contract work. Why don't you come work for us, 20 hours a week. You can make it flexible around the school hours and see how it goes. Just come and try it. So I did 6 weeks for them, and at the end of the contract, nothing was ever mentioned. And 6 years later, I was still there, but I was running 2 offices. So that flexibility from that company to take a risk on somebody returning to work that they knew would take a little bit of time to get back up to speed, to gain confidence, actually played out that they had 15 years of previous experience, although it had been 8 or 10 years earlier, and a master's degree that they could then use moving forward. So I think it is key for businesses, in this environment where skills are so short, to look at doing things differently, to look at part-time roles, to look at supporting people returning to work for whatever reason they've taken a career break, actually to look at those options that might be open and to extend that, to be flexible. You get a more diverse workforce. We know that that's proven to assist businesses to actually improves their output to have a diverse workforce. So yeah, I would say that's really key in breaking that bias.
Which women have positively impacted your career?
I've worked in industries where actually I haven't worked with women directly, so in maritime and in engineering. But actually, I have been really fortunate that I've had a lot of support outside of work. So the reason I ended up in the Merchant Navy was actually my mum was a trained teacher, but actually took time out to look after us children and didn't return to work. But actually, she positively impacted in terms of encouraging me to run in a career where she saw my skills and giftings would lie. So she really did encourage me to look outside the box, to look at something different, to a career where I could travel, where I'd still get an education and further education, and that there was lots of opportunities and different outlets that I could go to once I chose, if I chose not to continue a career at sea. And all the way along the way has been one of my biggest cheerleaders. And I would say for mums of girls out there, you are a key voice in your children's lives, and how that impacts on the subjects that they're going to take at school, in the options that they look at, and that whole can-do attitude actually of you can do it if you want to, and that there's not one route that suits all. And I think that's so key, is actually understanding if your child doesn't want to stay on for A levels, or maybe it doesn't suit them, it's not the end of the world. Actually, apprenticeships are a really good option. If your child doesn't want to go to university, again, there's lots of other options. And I think family members have such a key role in that, in supporting and encouraging, looking at things differently.
Will you help break the bias?